Hey, philosophy students. Today we are talking about a case for identity, a case of identity. And this particular essay is very short but very dense. It has a lot of information packed in to a short essay. And it's easy to get so wrapped up in the analogy of the ships that you forget the point of the essay. And the point of the essay is to think about what makes you you. Are you you even if you had an entirely new body? Think about it. Over the course of 7 years, approximately, all of your cells renew. So your cells become new cells. So approximately every 7 years, you are physically entirely different, made up of entirely new material. So does that make you a new person? Do you have a new identity now? Or not? Are you you based on your physical parts? Or are you you because of something else? Something that makes you besides your physical parts? And that's what we're talking about in a case for identity. What makes you you? And the ship analogy is a famous analogy used in philosophy. And this particular essay goes into detail about it. So let's jump right in. So keeping in mind that we're not really just talking about ships. We're going to go through the entire ship analogy and then bring it back to the idea of human beings. So in this essay, who are our characters? So our characters are the Proteus brothers. The Proteus brothers are shipbuilders, okay? And they have docks where they build ships. And then you have Bombos, which is a ship owner. He owns ship X. And he brings in ship X to be completely renewed. He wants all new parts replaced in his ship. And he wants all new parts in his ship because it's half the price of just saying, I want a new ship. Okay, so now he brings in ship X. Now, Marian, and I may not be pronouncing this correctly because I have no idea how to pronounce this particular name. So, Marian, he wanted a new ship. So he went to the Proteus brothers and said, I want a new ship. And they said, great. You know, what's the best type of ship is one made of planks that have proved to be seaworthy. So they talk Marian into getting a new ship made from seaworthy planks, which is another way of saying used planks. And their idea here is they're going to make a lot of money because they're going to get ship X from Bombos and replace all of it with new planks and then take the old planks and build a ship for Marian and then charge him full price for the ship that they just used the parts from ship X. Sorry, I'm coughing. Sorry. Okay, so how does this work? All right. This is how it works. You've got, let's see if you can see this. Doc, sorry, I am not an artist. There we go. So you got Dock A. Dock A over here, you got ship X. That's the one that Bombos brought in. Now, he's going to have the planks taken off. This is how they're going to do it. They're going to take off the plank and move it over here to Dock B. Now, the old plank is going to be used to make a new ship that we're going to call ship Z. Then the old plank is going to be replaced with a new plank. The new plank comes back over to Dock A, and they make a boat that we're going to call boat Y, with all the new planks. It's weird because I'm on a camera and I can't see what I'm pointing at. So sorry. Okay, so think about it. Don't get caught up in reading the paragraph because it sounds more confusing than it is. Think about it. Bombos brings in ship X to dock A. They take it off plank by plank. One plank goes over to dock B, and that plank is used to build boat Z. Then they replace that plank with a new plank, which goes back to dock A, and they make ship Y. So this is how that works. Now, what happens next? There's a fire. And a fire happens. So, ship Z is taken out by flames. It is now turned to ashes. There is no more ship Z. So, what happens? The Proteus brothers, realizing they have two people that want ships and they didn't buy insurance, run away. Now you have two claims on ship Y, Bombos and Marian. Now, Bombos is going to make the case that ship X is identical with ship Y. The way he makes the argument is, I'm sorry about the coughing. I don't have a cough drop with me. Okay, so Bombos is going to say over a period of time, an object like a human can undergo a change of its parts and still remain the same person or the same ship. So, back to the human example, they're going to argue that over time, you stay the same person. So, if all of your physical parts or all your physical cells become new cells, you're still the same person. You just have all new parts. And for the ship, if that's the case, then X is identical to Y if it meets two criteria. One, the overall form is retained. So, the ship is still the ship. It's just getting each plank replaced by the new plank. So, the ship is still the ship. Same for a human being. If a human being, a cell gets replaced, the cell is now part of the human being. So, the form is there, the human being or the ship. The second one is it has to have a continuous space-time path. That sounds more complicated than it is. It just means that you need to know at every moment where and when the material is at. It can't disappear. You have to know the entire path of the planks. And if you don't, it's not the same ship or the same person. So, for any sci-fi geeks or Trekkies out there, this argument would mean if you actually get beamed somewhere, you actually get to, and you would be all of, probably shouldn't go into this. I'll be really quick. So, in Star Trek, you're going to get beamed somewhere. So, you stand there and you end up somewhere a lot farther off. And what happens is all of your parts are disintegrated and you show up there with all new parts. So actually, based on Bombos' argument, you're not the same person. Because you disappeared in one place and appeared in another. You can't trace your stuff in space-time. Anyway, so the idea is, if you're not a Trekkie, ignore that. It just means that you have to know all the parts at all times, where and when they are at. You have to be able to follow a continuous route, okay? So, they're going to Bombos and Marian are going to go to court, and that is going to be Bombos' argument for why he deserves ship Y, because X and Y are the same ship. Now, you've got Marian's lawyer. Now, Marian's lawyer is going to come in and say, no, Marian deserves ship Y. He paid for a new ship, and Y is made up of all new planks. And they're going to argue that it's not the form or knowing where in space-time all the stuff is at. It just means that something can be taken apart and reassembled and still stay the same. So if you have a watch and you take apart all the parts of the watch and then you reassemble the parts, then it is the same watch. So think about how this is going to work. Okay, so Marian wants ship Y. So they're going to say, that X, Bombos brought in X. And what they're going to say is he brought in X, and X was disassembled and reassembled as ship Z. Ship Z was the reassembled ship that Marian brought in. So ship Z belonged to Marian and it was destroyed. And ship Y should belong to Marian and not Bombos. Okay. That's both of their arguments. They both want ship Y, and they're both going to say that it's their ship for these reasons. I hope I haven't confused everybody. Let me go through the court case, and then we'll come back and kind of clarify at the end. So now, that was the cases made in the court case. So then what does the judge say? The judge says, well, I agree that Marian's lawyer is correct that you can take apart a ship and reassemble a ship and it's still the same ship. But they don't think that's what happened here. What they say happened be this. Whoops. So you have X ship over here. That was the one brought in by Bombos. Each old plank was taken off and moved over to Z. And the new plank came over, this way. So the new plank comes over and is replaced where the old plank was taken off. So there was never a ship Y to begin with. Ship X is just the same ship. It's the form. And one plank is taken off and replaced with a new plank. And that happened 1,000 times. So the new plank is part of ship X. Once the old plank is replaced by the new plank becomes a part of ship X. So it was never completely disassembled and reassembled. What happened is the planks were replaced one by one. In the same way that a human being will regenerate its cells. It doesn't happen all at once. You don't just lose all your cells and then they all are new. Over the course of 7 years, it slowly takes place that cells regenerate and become new cells. In the same way the ship, one cell at a time or one plank at a time, end up being has completely new parts. All right, so if the judge is going to argue this, then ship X never disappeared. I mean, ship Y never existed. It was, yes. It's weird doing this on a camera. So ship X was the one that Bombos brought in. And he wanted it upgraded with all new parts. And it's still ship X. And if it's still ship X, it belongs to Bombos because He brought in ship X. He's taken ship X. It's the same ship, just with each of its parts replaced. Ship Z was a new ship, even though it was made of old parts, and that would have been the one that Marion would get. Sorry, I have to think about the names before I say it, so as not to confuse people. So, I hope that clarified this particular essay, because this essay, even though it's like 2.5 pages, they say it really quickly, and you really have to pay attention in order to get all of the parts. So let's bring this back to the human level. These ships are analogies for human beings. What makes you you? Is it your physicality? Is it your physical makeup? Or is it something else? So if it's your physical makeup, if you have all new physical makeup, are you a new person? Do you have a new identity? Every 7 years, you're made up of new parts. So are you a new person? Do you have a new identity? You could say, yes, you do. Or you could argue, no, I'm still me. Even if all my physical parts are replaced, there's something about me that remains the same. And in the case of the ship, they're going to argue it's the form of the ship. But in the case of people, there's a lot of different arguments for what makes you you. If it's not the physical stuff that you are made of, then you have to ask, what makes me me over time? Even when I'm an entirely new physical being, what is it over time that continues my identity? Think about it. If you believe that you exist after death, what is it that's existing? It can't be your physical self, because your physical self isn't there anymore. So if it's something else, what else is it? I know this would touch on people's belief in souls, but then you'd have to say, what actually is a soul? Is it memories? Is it the ability to think, reason? What is it? We're going to skip the whole after death part and stick to every 7 years, you are a completely new physical person because, well, let me say it this way. You have all new physical parts. So then the question now is, which side do you agree with? Marian's lawyer or Bombo's lawyer? Do you agree that what makes you you is the physical? Or is it something else? Can you be a physically new person, well, with all new parts, and still be the same person? And if you can, why? What is it about you makes you you? So, when you're falling asleep at tonight, just ask yourself this question. What makes me me? Have a good night. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.